Hi, and welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today we're talking about video production with a man that needs no introduction. But for those who may not know who you are you and what are you doing here?
Well, I might need a little bit of an introduction. But I'm Jon Tucker. I'm a video producer, and I'm here because I like talking about gear. And I know you like talking about gear. And when I got the opportunity to come along and do that, I jumped at it. So, my wife kind of gets a bit over me talking about the latest camera specs and all that kind of thing. So
You need someone else to talk to about that stuff.
Definitely. I've been running a video production business for the last 10 years. Just recently, a couple of years ago, merged that business with my wife's business, who's in social media marketing and management. And so now we're Cardigan Creative, sort of a more full service thing. So not just creating the content and the videos, but also the whole marketing behind it and how to get it out there in front of the right people and all that kind of thing. So that's been really fun.
And what's it like working with your wife?
It's interesting, usually pretty good, but it's kind of good that we have our own sort of areas. Like she's very much in the producing and the marketing side of things, and I'm in some more of the technical production and that kind of thing. So you have to work independently a little bit, but it's kind of good because we've got a bit of a shorthand, and when you know someone that well, you're not shy about saying something when it comes up, which is kind of good. Sometimes, if you don't like something, you just say, I don't like it. And, sometimes that's a bit hard working with people when you've got to, tiptoe around things. So, yeah.
And live with them.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there's been good times and interesting times, but on the whole, it's sort of working all right. Yeah, not too bad.
Great. Well, that's a bit of a snapshot of who you are. How did you get into video production?
Well,
Where did it start? Because before we started the podcast, you did mention that you had an audio background as well. So just take us from the beginning.
Yeah, well, as a teenager, I was really into music. So I sort of played in a band and also really interested in writing and recording and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to be a recording engineer. That was my goal. And studied music production at RMIT. And then found that was a really hard industry to break into. And so sort of got into doing audio-visual for events and things like that. Started off as audio and then just got exposed to the video side of things through that. So that was sort of like my first exposure to it. And we'd be doing these sort of bigger shows, and as an AV tech, like you're in there really early, before dawn, unloading the trucks, getting all the stuff ready, spending hours before the show even starts, and then you've got to operate the show all day, and then, it finishes and you've got to pack it all down, really hard slog. And I'd notice on some of these big gigs, the camera guys, like about an hour before the show, they'd sort of rock up and set their camera up at the back of the room on the tripod and plug in the power and SDI that we'd set up for them. And then they'd go find a coffee and go over by the buffet, and I'm like, oh, gee, they're all right. And they'd shoot the show and then pack up their camera and off they'd go. And I'm like, that guy's getting paid a lot more than I am. I've got to learn how to do that.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to stuff I do today.
Well, there you go.
Great.
And so I did. I thought my brother had a crop sensor Nikon with a kit lens that he had, and I said, can I borrow that for a little bit? And he said, yeah, fine. And just started taking it everywhere, taking photos, learning about the exposure triangle, just getting stuck into YouTube University and, just really trying to figure everything out. And I sort of noticed after a while that same feeling that I got from music, that sort of creativity and the technical side of things, I was getting that same sort of enjoyment out of video and photography and that kind of thing. And then that sort of made it something that I really wanted to make a part of what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And today, what are you doing? So you mentioned before you're running Cardigan Creative. Tell us, what is that? What's a typical project that you would find yourself working on today?
Well, some of them might be a podcast like this, like some people that want to, do thought leadership or share their ideas or expertise in the industry. So we'll film podcasts. We'll then make those podcasts available as a podcast, but then also break it down into social clips and then also help them with the plan on how to roll that out and all of that kind of thing. Brand videos, we love telling the stories of not just the business and what they do, but kind of like the story about the people behind the business. So why did they start? Kind of like what you're doing here. Why did they get involved with it? What drives them and all that kind of thing. Trying to create an emotional connection with the business so that They can sort of build a rapport with their customers, and just it's amazing what you can find out, like about business owners, or just it's really interesting for us. And we know when it sparks interest in us, we know that other people will be interested in it too. So just trying to find those and share those with everyone. That's what we really like doing. Yeah.
Yeah, great. But what led you to finding that as the type of project that you want to do? Like, did you go into starting your business and thinking, I want to make brand videos? Or did you go into it thinking, I'm going to make the best wedding videos or the best real estate videos, and then realize that's not for me? What was the journey to get you to where you are today?
Well, I think, as I said, I found that spark from using the camera and that creative energy. And I just knew that, like, I've always just sort of had this want to do that creative side of me, to make that something that I spend the most of my time doing. And the way to do that is to turn it into a way that you can make money and support yourself and all that kind of thing. So I mentioned when I was in AV, about 10 years ago, quit my full-time job. I was going to go freelance. And I knew that I wanted to make video a part of what I did. And we went on a holiday, and then when we got back, I said, that's it, I'm not going back to my full-time job. We're going to make a big change. And I remember we were just about to go out on a bushwalk, and a camera that I'd been watching on eBay was just about to go up for auction. And I was sitting there thinking, like, all right, I've just quit my job. We don't have much money, family to feed, but this is something I want to do. And we're sitting there like, should we jump on this? Should we do it? And hit the place bid, and we won it. And it was like this instant kind of like excitement, but also a little bit of scary, frightened. What have we done? We've just spent the last money that we have on this camera, and we don't know what we're going to do with it. But I feel like that was kind of like a pivotal moment for me. When people say, what was a turning point in your life or your career? And that's what it was for me, like taking that risk of not really knowing what was going to come out of it, but just saying, no, this is something I want to do, and going with it. And then from there, again, a kind of roundabout way of answering the question, but taking that and then thinking, how can I make a living out of this? How can I make this thing that I enjoy into something that I do as much as possible? And sort of that's where that drive came from, I think.
And what camera was that?
That was the GH3.
Ah, okay.
Kind of a very pivotal camera for a lot of people. I find it had a lot of buzz going around. The GH4 had already come out, so
okay.
It was kind of you could get some good secondhand deals.
That makes sense.
On eBay. And again, like in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a lot of money for a camera at that time. But for us at that point in time, that was a huge deal. And I love that camera. That was great. I ended up getting a second one after a while, and probably the best return on investment I've ever had on a piece of gear, because it was only a few $100s, and I used that for many, many years. So
yeah, I never used the GH3. I still have the GH4, and I also used the Panasonic AF100 or 102 in Australia. Yeah. So I have a background in shooting with Panasonic and Micro Four Thirds, but yeah, didn't get on board until the GH4 with the mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing today, or we've covered what you're doing today. Where do you want to go in the future?
Ooh. Good question. So I really want to, as I brought up before, that really the stories behind the business side of things. I really want to focus on almost doing kind of like mini documentary style videos, really get into that storytelling side of things, and just make some content like still for businesses, but stuff that is interesting to watch regardless of whether you're interested in that business's services or something like that. Just really telling stories that are just enjoyable to watch, but then also work well for clients who want to build awareness and get people to know about what they're about. Really, I find a lot of brand videos, they'll tell the story and say what services people have, but unless you're interested in acquiring those services, you're not necessarily going to watch the video. So I really want to think of how we can find stories to make interesting content videos and things like that people will just watch because it's an interesting story. And the byproduct of that is that they'll find out about the business, and if they are interested, they'll be able to engage them. But and also just on a personal creative level, just find stories that have nothing to do with business and have nothing to do with, an outcome other than I just want to tell a good story. So I feel like at this point in my career, I haven't done enough finished work that's just for creating something that I want to create, where I've actually finished it. Done a lot of sort of short things that have been fun to shoot and all this kind of thing, but I want to tackle a real project and get some real finished projects out there that people can relate to. So that's probably what I want to do in the rest of this year and into the future.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think what you mentioned about the brand videos and creating content that is, I guess, appealing for just anyone to be able to watch. Someone that might not know that they really need to get that video doorbell or whatever, yeah. But for somehow the content creator, video producer creates a piece of content that highlights it, and then you go, oh, actually, I want that. And it's done in an entertaining and informative way.
Yeah, well, comedy can be a good way as well. We've done some of those recently where it's just like, let's just make a video that's just really funny and relatable. And
how did that perform? Was that on YouTube or was that, how
really
was that
well
distributed?
It was an Instagram reel, and I didn't even shoot it. It was one of our clients. My wife came up with the idea. It was kind of like following a bit of a trend that had been happening online, and gave them the ideas and a few starting point ideas, and then they filmed them themselves under, with that guidance, and they did a really good job. And I think that's a big part of it. Like, people that you're working with, you need some buy-in from them. You need them to really take it on board and run with it, and they really did. And put together a reel, and it went out, I think it's up to like 75,000 views at the moment. And it's just because it's just really relatable to their industry. And so when it gets out to those people, people just like it and find it amusing. And now they're exposed to so many more people than they would have been. So just something a bit different that, a lot of people aren't doing.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And what, over the time that you've been doing this video production journey, are there any projects that really stand out, like as a favorite or something that you've really learned something from that you'd like to share with us today? Have you got any cool stories?
Well, I often think about one of the first videos I ever did. As I said,
they're always the best.
Yeah. So I told you the story about getting that camera and how much of a pivotal moment that was. And I feel like a lot of people often ask the question when they start out, like, should I do work for free? And it's always this contentious, like, some people say yes, some people say no. And like one of the earliest event highlight reel videos I did, I actually essentially paid to do.
Yeah. So counterintuitive,
yeah.
But what it can lead to is amazing.
Oh, 100%. So the Cardigan Classic, which is a big tennis tournament in the lead up to the Australian Open, they were having a launch party, and they were after someone to sponsor some DJ gear. So they had a popular DJ at the time playing at the party, and they needed someone to provide the DJ decks and the PA for the party. And I got asked, because I had an audiovisual background, like, do you want to sponsor that? You can have your sign up and all this sort of stuff. And I thought about it. I'm like, I didn't own any of this gear, but I'm like, but I really want to make a highlight video of this event. So I thought, okay, I'll do that if I can make a highlight video, if I can make you a free highlight video. And they said, oh yeah, cool, why not? So I went and cross-hired all the gear that I needed, went there early, set it all up, and got them their DJ stuff. And then went there, shot a video, got my brother to come along to help me with his camera. He was into it at the time as well. And we just shot this event. And then afterwards, got the editing together. I got my other brother, who was a had his own YouTube channel and everything, so really good at editing. So I said, can you come help me edit? Because I was still new at all that as well. And
do you want to shout him out on the podcast?
Yeah, Sam Time. Check out Sam Time on YouTube. He's pretty big now. He's got like 300,000 subscribers or something like that. So he helped me with the edit, and we sort of put it all together and got it out there. And so essentially paid like $300 or something in order to shoot this thing. But the amount of work that came out of that, because I had something to show, someone that I actually met while we were doing that saw us floating around, taking the video, found out who we were, and they actually worked for a sporting team as part of the sponsorship, and they needed some event photography done. And so they said, well, we saw you running around and doing your thing. Can you come shoot photos for our during game days and all that kind of thing? So we went there, started doing that, and that turned into a long run sort of photography gig for a while. So yeah, I think the moral for me was like, if it's going to make a difference for your portfolio and all that kind of thing, definitely do things for free, do things that might seem, a bit weird to do at the time, but if it's going to be worth it for you in the long run, then it can definitely be something to do. So I think that's the thing, just doing things that might seem a bit odd or taking a chance on something. Those are the things that I feel like can really push you forward and like you remember. So that's probably, an early one, but a kind of a memorable one because it's what sort of kicked everything along.
Yeah, no, that's really inspiring. And to finish off today's episode, do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to leave the audience?
I think that would probably be it, just expanding on that a little bit. Like,
work for free. And then
no,
see what
no,
happens.
no, that's not what I mean is take a chance. When I originally left my full-time job, I remember sitting there thinking, I was looking for some other jobs on Seek and all this kind of thing. And I was thinking of all these other things I could do. And I just realized, hang on, I've been here before. I've been in the same situation where I'm not happy and I want to move on. But I'm going about it the same way that I have in the past. I've gone on Seek, I found a new job, I've stayed there for a little bit. It's history repeating, right? And I think about, if you're not happy with where you are and what you're doing, think about if you don't make a change, in 5 years' time, are you still going to be sitting there in the same situation? Like, something drastic needs to change in order to move where you're going. So I guess the advice would be, don't wait until you're ready, because if you wait until you're ready, you're never going to feel ready. So there has to be a point in time where you don't know how it's going to turn out, but you do it anyway. And that's something that I did 10 years ago. Same thing with buying that camera. It's like I could have played it safe and not done it, but then who knows? Like, sometimes you have to roll the dice. And if you want to go somewhere, that's what you got to do. So don't be afraid of making a mistake. You'll figure it out.
That's great advice. Jon, thanks for joining us today on the Your Story Studios podcast.
Thanks, Ben. It's been fun.